So SUPboarder review time, we are back with another video. This time we're going to be talking about the 2022 Starboard Lima paddles. First impressions, these paddles look very similar to the 2021 Limas, but there is some fairly big changes that Starboard have done to the paddle, and it's not to do with the power side of the paddle, it's actually the back of the paddle that really interests us. Many of you out there are probably well aware of Starboard because they make paddle boards, but they also have a huge paddle range as well, which to be fair is probably enough of a justification for Starboard to exist just on their paddles alone. If you want to find out more information about Starboard and the other paddles that they make as well, definitely check the 2021 video I did on the Starboard paddle range. The range is fairly similar this year. There is some changes in the Lima which I'm going to speak about in a minute, but definitely check out that video for more information on other paddles from Starboard. So let's dive straight into this video then. So we've had 3 paddles to use over probably a month and a half now. We've used them in lots of different conditions, as always with all our reviews. These are all 2-piece adjustable paddles, which means that the team can all get on and change their paddles nice and easy, but the sizes of the blades are different. We've had a medium, a large and an extra large. We'll come back to the sizes in a minute because it's a really important question and conundrum around sizes, let's say. We've also got some information from the top riders, what sizes of paddles they're using. But before we dive into more information about the sizes of these paddles, let's really look at the big differences between this 2022 compared to the 2021. Now, on the face of it, when you see the 2 paddles side by side, there is very little difference. They're the same length and they are the same width at the widest point. If you look at the actual shape and design of the actual front of the paddle, it's very, very close, if not the same paddle as 2021. Big concave in the middle, slightly smaller concaves off to the side. It's designed to do exactly the same thing, hold you in the water, give you a lot of support when you're putting the paddle in. It stops the paddle from feathering, from moving around and hitting the side of your board. Definitely if you're a more beginner intermediate paddler, you might understand when you put your paddle in the water and you pull it, sometimes it waves around a little bit. Having a concave or having any sort of shape in the blade is going to give you a more of a stable feel as you load up your paddle and pull yourself across the water. But if we take this paddle and we flip it around, there is a massive difference to the back of the paddle. 2 big reinforcing strips down here. Now, when I first saw this paddle, I thought this looked very much like the Lima Toughskin. And now, in effect, that's Starboard's plastic paddle, which is the entry-level paddle to get you into paddleboarding. The thing about plastic is it's not very durable and it's quite flexy. It's not like carbon or glass fiber, which gives you much more stiffness. So they had to put these reinforcing strips in that blade to give it that stiffness. Now, I'd have loved to have been around the team when they started paddling and using that cheaper price point paddle, and also started playing around with that type of construction with those 2 reinforcing ribs in the back of the paddle blade and put it into this type of top-end Prepreg carbon paddle. Now, that is a really important thing to note. We're talking about the Starboard Prepreg Lima, not the carbon Lima, because that back of the blade shape is actually different. If you're going to be buying yourself a carbon Lima, which is a very good price point paddle, retails about £169, same front blade shape, except the actual back of the paddle is completely different. They haven't got this type of reinforcing or type of shape on the back of the paddle. Now, the reason for that is the materials that are going into the Prepreg carbon compared to the carbon paddle are different. With the Prepreg carbon, there's more carbon in the paddle. There's a complete layer of unidirectional carbon in the 2022 one. You still have the PVC foam core, but obviously the core is a lot thinner because they've taken all of the volume out of the middle here and been able to put these reinforcing strips down the back. So they need to have the pad a little bit thicker to give you that extra bit of strength, and which is why you have the more traditional fatter back of the paddle blade on that carbon Lima. So the real question is, why did Starboard put this into production on their Prepreg top of the range racing fast paddling touring paddle? Some might say it's to save weight, but you'll find the paddles are pretty much the same sort of weight. There's not much weight difference in it. You still got the same sort of materials in it, it's just less volume. Now, to be totally honest, we had no idea what that would actually do and how it would actually feel like when we were paddling. But in simple terms, when you put your paddle in the water, it means you can put your paddle down for the catch or the power phase faster than if you had a paddle with more volume. So as soon as your tip of the paddle starts entering the water, it's in the water straight away. because you're pushing less physical thickness and volume of the paddle down into the water. So because you can push that paddle in the water faster, you can give yourself a quicker cadence if you want to paddle faster, but also you can be more smooth and fluid with the entry of your paddle and the exit of your paddle. And the other thing that you will notice, I think, is that the 2021 Lima is a great paddle. It's a beautiful paddle. It's a really nice paddle that lots of levels of people are going to get out and get on the water with. But this one is even easier to use again. Because you can put your paddle in the water faster and a little bit deeper, there's less chance for the paddle to feather. Because if you imagine you put your paddle tip in and you start pulling back too early, so you haven't properly initiated your full paddle in the water, which is going to give you the most support in this section here. If you start pulling back too early when the tip's in the water, then that's when your paddle's going to start to feather, because you haven't given the paddle a full chance to catch. Having less volume means that you're going to get that paddle in further and deeper, and there it gives you more support and it doesn't feather around so much. Now let's move on to physical sizes of these paddles, because this bit, I will admit, can be and will be a little bit confusing for some people, and we are no doubt going to get lots of questions on SUPboarder Pro and probably some on the comments below about this. So if we have a look at the 2021 sizes compared to the 2022, you will see that all the sizes that are printed on Starboard's brochures and online are actually bigger for 2022. Now, after talking to Starboard about this and finding out what has changed, they have told us that they have just changed the way that they measure the surface area of the blades for 2022. So actually the paddle blade sizes are actually the same as 2021, even though they are printed on the paddle blade and online as bigger sizes. The really interesting thing we've done in this review is we've been in contact with some of Starboard's top racers and tourers to find out what size of Prepreg Limas they are using for 2022. So Daniel Haslow, very fast racer, weighs 68 to 72 kilograms. He is on a Lima extra large for 2022, and he prefers that with a fairly stiff shaft. That's an S30 shaft in all water conditions and all types of racing. Connor Baxter, one of the guys who put Starboard on the map when it comes to racing, 71 kilograms in weight, a Lima extra large again for technical and sprint, and a Lima L for distance racing, and a shaft stiffness of an S35, so not as stiff. Michael Booth, an extremely powerful paddler, 78 kilograms, a Lima extra large again, S35 shaft in all types of conditions. Looking at an exceptionally fast and talented female paddler, Fiona Wild, 64 kilograms, a Lima medium in an S45 for all conditions. And also Bart Dissoir, he is an extremely standout long distance paddler. Now he actually uses a Lima medium in an S35 shaft, so still fairly stiff, and he has a longer shaft than most people, because during the long races you tend to stand up a little bit straighter and your stroke is generally longer with a slower frequency. We've also got some more information on the SUPboarder post below or on the SUPboarder website if you're not watching this video on there, with the 2021 other Starboard riders and the Limas they were using in 2021 as well. Just remember, the higher the S number, so S45, S40, the less stiffness it has. The lower the number, the S30, S35, the stiffer the paddle is. Just think about it like our deflection test. That's exactly what it is. So you can get these paddles in extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, double extra large. But you will see that all of these paddlers, they're fairly lightweight. They're not that heavy. None of them are over 85, 80 kilograms. And they are using those bigger, extra large blades. Now we've been playing around with these blades over the last month, as I said. I'm 75 kilograms, but I do find the extra large is too big for me. I had a big downwind session and I found I just couldn't get the power into the paddle to get me up to the speed. I like to be paddling faster. I like to have that faster cadence. So I'm still going to opt for a large over an extra large, even though I weigh the same or more than some of those Starboard top riders. Now, I really will recommend, if you can, get yourself to demo or have a go on a Lima from 2021, but really from 2022, if you can, to give you an idea of what paddle blade size you should go for. Obviously, if you're a heavier rider and you are a powerful rider and you're generally doing a slower cadence, you're going to be wanting to look at the extra large or XXL for sure. I think it's going to be a little bit trickier for the people in the moderate medium weight sense from 70 to 85 kilograms, because going on some of the pros, we could be on extra larges or we could even be on mediums. But also think about what type of paddling you're going to be doing, what type of length of paddle you're going to be doing. You can see a lot of the pros are opting for bigger blades for shorter sprints or less length technical races, but they're going for smaller, more medium or large blades in the longer distance races, because obviously they don't want to work their shoulders over a longer period of time. But also remember, when we, the pure mortals here, are comparing ourselves to maybe the top athletes out there, these guys and girls are fit and they really do paddle a lot. So bear in mind, we're going to have to be able to work that paddle effectively without damaging our shoulders and elbows and arms so much. So probably take their top picks as a guide. So maybe a lot of us should be looking at maybe one size down from their paddles. You can get these 2022 Limas in all the same types as last year's paddles. So you're talking fixed one piece, you're talking adjustable two piece, three piece paddles. They've still got that exceptionally good central push pin offset system on the three piece. The handle is the same. Without a doubt, it's one of the nicest paddle handles on the market, and all of our riders and testers and people who use the Starboard paddles think it's a very comfortable and easy to use for long distances. Another thing that's worth noting, definitely if you're a more of a beginner intermediate paddler, maybe you've got a wider, bigger paddle, is that because the top of the shoulders here is still quite narrow, it means you can get the paddle physically quite close to the board, and therefore you're going to paddle it in a straighter line. If you imagine a paddle going directly down the middle of your board, you're going to go in a straight line all day long. So the closer you can get your paddle to the center of the board, the more of a straighter line you're going to go in. They've also got a 10-degree angle on this paddle as well, which means when it's in the power phase, you've got a lot of sheer vertical paddle pulling you through the water. You've got all the same shaft diameters you could get last year. You can get oval, you can get round, you can get a narrow diameter, but a lot of those, if you're looking at slightly specialist ones, you might need to pre-order a lot of those. Most of the shafts you're going to find are going to be round or oval, are probably around the 29 millimeters in diameter, and a lot of the stiffnesses you'll find in shops will be the S35s or the S40s or S45s. So the new 2022 Starboard Limas, with their reduced volume and their new ribs at the back, have caught our eye. They do make a difference when you're paddling, and they do feel very nice and responsive to use. I would love to know your feedback for these. I know a lot of you have already got these and are starting to paddle with them. Please get your comments below, get your comments on the SUPboarder review, get your comments on our emails. Just let us know what you think about these paddles. So in summary, it's a quicker and smoother paddle to put in and out of the water. It could offer you a faster cadence if you want that, and it is an easier paddle to paddle with than the 2021 paddle. I hope you found this review interesting and informative. Please, as I said, get those comments in. I'd love to know your thoughts, but until next time, we'll see you on another SUPboarder video real soon.